I bought my first house and invited everyone to celebrate. Nobody showed up. They all ran off to admire my brother's shiny new car. As I switched on the lights alone, my phone rang. It was Mom. We need to talk about the house. The karma that followed was beautiful. Throwaway for obvious reasons. This is long, but stick with me. The ending is worth it. I 29 male, and this happened over the past year. Need some background because family dynamics matter for understanding how insane this got. Growing up, I was always the other brother. My younger brother Connor, 27 male, was everything I wasn't. Tall, athletic, charismatic, the golden child. Mom spent her free time driving him to football practice while I tinkered with engines in our garage. Dad appreciated my mechanical skills when he needed help, but it was clear where the family's attention went. Connor got a partial football scholarship to State University. Big celebration, Mom crying happy tears, the whole family driving 3 hours to watch games. I went to community college for automotive technology because I knew what I wanted and couldn't afford 4 years. Connor lasted until junior year when he blew out his knee. Instead of finishing his degree, he dropped out and moved home. Mom made endless excuses while I'd graduated and was working at Peterson's Auto Service, starting from oil changes and working my way up. For 5 years, I watched Connor bounce between jobs, car lots, furniture stores, electronics retailers, always talking about his big break while Mom enabled every failure. When he'd get fired for showing up late, she'd help write new resumes. When he'd blow his paycheck on expensive clothes, she'd quietly cover his bills. Meanwhile, I lived in a cramped studio apartment, saving every dollar. Worked 6 days a week, ate more ramen than any human should, drove a beat-up Honda Civic I maintained myself. My social life was non-existent, but I had a goal: buy a house. My own place. Last spring, after 5 years of grinding, I finally had enough for a down payment. Found this perfect little ranch on Maple Street. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, decent kitchen, and a 2-car garage for a proper workshop. Listed at $185,000, and I could put down $37,000. The day I closed was the best day of my life. When the realtor handed me the keys, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, staring at my house. No more thin walls, no more landlords, no more feeling temporary. This was mine. I'd earned it through 5 years of sacrifice. I spent that Thursday evening walking through empty rooms, planning everything. This bedroom would be my office, this one a guest room, the garage my workshop. I felt incredible pride and accomplishment. All those nights eating ramen while Connor went to restaurants. All those weekends working overtime while he slept until noon. It had all led to this. Friday, I took a personal day cleaning the house top to bottom, even though it was already clean. I wanted everything perfect for Saturday's housewarming party. Nothing elaborate. Snacks, sodas, maybe order pizzas. I even splurged on a sheet cake. Congratulations, Jake, in blue frosting. I was genuinely excited like childhood Christmas mornings. Kept imagining Dad walking through nodding approvingly, Mom getting emotional seeing how far her quiet son had come, Connor making good-natured jokes but maybe offering to help move furniture. Friday evening, I sent a text to our family group chat. Housewarming party tomorrow starting at 4 p.m. Can't wait to show everyone the new place. First round of sodas on me. Got back a single thumbs-up emoji from my cousin Derek. That was it. No, can't wait, or so proud, or even what's the address. Just Derek's thumbs up. I figured everyone was busy and would respond later. Went to bed practically bouncing with anticipation. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, light breeze, the kind of day that makes you grateful to be alive. Up by 7 without an alarm, too excited to sleep. Spent the morning arranging borrowed folding chairs, setting up my playlist, making sure everything was perfect. Around noon, I arranged pizza delivery for 5 o'clock. 1 pepperoni, 1 supreme. Bought ice, paper plates, even congratulations themed napkins. By 3:30, everything was ready. Music playing softly, snacks on the counter, sodas cooling in ice. The house smelled like vanilla candles, afternoon sunlight streaming through windows. 4 o'clock came and went. No cars except mine. 4:30. Still nothing. I started checking my phone constantly, wondering about traffic or missed messages. 5 o'clock arrived with complete silence. The pizza delivery guy showed up right on schedule, looking confused seeing just me. I paid him, tipped well from embarrassment, and carried 2 large pizzas into my empty house. Instagram first. There was my entire extended family. Mom, Dad, Connor, both sets of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in months, all gathered in Connor's apartment complex parking lot. They were surrounding this brand new Dodge Challenger RT, bright orange with black racing stripes, and one of those enormous red bows tied to the hood like something from a car commercial. Connor stood in the center of it all, wearing a new leather jacket I'd never seen before, arms crossed and grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Mom had her arm around his waist, practically glowing with pride. Dad was examining the engine under the raised hood. Even my usually reserved grandmother was smiling wider than I'd seen in years. Mom's caption read, "So incredibly proud of our Connor. Dreams really do come true when you never give up and keep believing in yourself. This is just the beginning." The comments were exactly what you'd expect. "Gorgeous car, Connor. You deserve this. Way to go, champ. Success looks good on you. Mama raised him right. So happy for your family." That's what happens when you work hard and stay positive. I scrolled through dozens of similar comments, each one feeling like a small punch to the gut. The timestamp showed they'd been celebrating for over an hour, 15 minutes from my house. All of them. And not one single person had thought to stop by, even briefly, to see the house I'd worked 5 years to buy. I set my phone down and looked around my empty living room, the cake sitting untouched on the kitchen table, its cheerful blue frosting suddenly seeming pathetic. The borrowed chairs arranged in a circle where no one would ever sit. The unopened sodas that would probably sit in my refrigerator for weeks. The pizza boxes sat on my counter, filling the house with the smell of pepperoni and cheese, but I'd completely lost my appetite. I turned off the music and just stood there in the silence, trying to process what had happened. This wasn't just thoughtlessness or bad timing. This was a choice. My entire family had chosen to celebrate Connor's new car instead of my new house. They'd chosen his moment over mine, his achievement over mine, his happiness over mine. I'd always known I came second to Connor in the family hierarchy, but seeing it played out so starkly, so publicly, hit me harder than I'd expected. I walked out to my back deck and sat on the steps, looking at my small backyard with its mature oak tree and the garden area I'd been planning to develop. This house represented 5 years of sacrifice, discipline, and delayed gratification. It represented every weekend I'd stayed home instead of going out, every overtime shift I'd picked up, every small luxury I'd denied myself. It was proof that the quiet, overlooked brother could accomplish something meaningful through sheer determination and hard work. But apparently, none of that mattered compared to Connor's shiny new toy. I sat out there until the sun went down, just thinking about family dynamics and priorities, and what it meant to be valued. When I finally went back inside, the house felt enormous and hollow, like a museum exhibit of my own ambition. Around 8 o'clock, my phone rang with Mom's contact photo, the one from Connor's high school graduation 3 years ago, where she's beaming with pride. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail, but another part hoped maybe she was calling to apologize, to explain that they'd lost track of time, but were heading over now with leftover cake and celebration energy. "Jake," she said, the moment I answered. No greeting or acknowledgement of the housewarming I'd invited them to just 4 hours earlier. Her voice had this strange tone, excited but trying to sound casual, like she was about to ask me to help move furniture or something equally mundane. "We need to discuss Connor using the house." I literally thought I'd misheard her. "What?" "For work," she continued, as if this made perfect sense. "His new position is on the north side of town, and the commute from his apartment complex is going to be murder with rush hour traffic. It would make so much more practical sense if he could stay at your place during the work week." I'm standing in my kitchen, still surrounded by untouched party food, trying to process what she'd just said. My mother, who'd spent the afternoon celebrating Connor's car instead of my house, was now suggesting that Connor should live in that house. "Mom, this is my house." "Of course it is, and we're all so proud of you," she replied quickly, like checking off a box on her mental list. "But you have to think practically here. Connor finally landed this amazing opportunity at Morrison Luxury Automotive. They sell BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, the works. The commission potential is incredible, but presentation is everything in that business. Morrison Luxury Automotive. I knew that dealership. High-end place that catered to doctors and lawyers, went through salespeople like tissues because they hired anyone willing to work straight commission. Most people washed out within 3 months when they realized how difficult it was to build a client base from scratch. This would just be temporary," she pressed on, "until he can afford to get his own place closer to the job. You've got those extra bedrooms just sitting there empty anyway. Extra bedrooms just sitting there. Like I'd bought a house to operate some kind of boarding facility for family members who couldn't manage their own finances. He could even contribute to the mortgage payment," she added, though her tone suggested this was more theoretical than actual commitment. I looked around my kitchen, with its clean counters and carefully chosen appliances, trying to imagine Connor's dirty dishes piling up in my sink. Mom, nobody even came to my housewarming today. Oh, honey, Connor's car situation just came together at the last minute. The dealership has these Saturday promotions, and everything happened so quickly. We would have come by afterward, but it got so late with all the paperwork and celebrating. The dealership closes at 6 on Saturdays. It was currently 8:15. This is really a golden opportunity for Connor, she continued without missing a beat. You know how hard it's been for him since the knee injury derailed his college plans. He's finally found something that could be his breakthrough career. Family helps family, Jake. Family helps family. But apparently only in one direction. I need time to think about this, I said, mostly because I needed to get off the phone before I said something I'd regret. What's there to think about? She replied, sounding genuinely confused. Connor's not asking to move in permanently. Just weekday nights. He'll be working such long hours you'll barely even know he's there. After I hung up, I walked through my 3 bedrooms, the ones she'd referred to as just sitting there empty. My house. The house I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford. The house nobody in my family had bothered to see or celebrate. And they wanted to hand it over to Connor like it was some kind of family resource available for communal use. I made myself a sandwich from the party supplies and sat at my kitchen table, eating in silence while I tried to figure out what exactly had just happened. In the span of one day, I'd gone from excited homeowner throwing a celebration to someone whose family was already planning to redistribute his property to better serve Connor's needs. The next morning brought a wake-up call in the form of 8 new messages in our family group chat. 8 messages about Connor's housing situation, sent while I was sleeping. Mom. Jake, Connor really needs an answer about the house arrangement. His start date is Monday. Dad. Don't overthink this, son. It's the practical solution. Connor. Dude, I already mentioned to my new boss that I might have the commute situation figured out. Don't make me look bad on my first day. Uncle Rick. Help your brother out, Jake. This could be his big break. Grandma Helen. Connor's such a go-getter. You should be supportive. Connor again. It's literally just a place to crash Monday through Thursday. I'll bring my own food and everything. Derek. Come on, man. Just let him stay there. What's the worst that could happen? Aunt Linda. Family sticks together. Don't be stubborn about this. I stared at these messages, realizing that sometime during the night, this had stopped being a request and became an expectation. Connor had already told his boss he had a solution. The family had already decided this was happening. Nobody had asked what I thought about strangers sleeping in my house, using my utilities, occupying my space. They'd simply determined that since I had extra bedrooms, Connor was entitled to one of them. By noon, Mom was calling again. I let it ring through to voicemail, but she left a long message that I played back twice, trying to understand the logic. Jake, sweetheart, I don't know why you're being difficult about this. Connor's under enormous pressure with this new job. The car payment alone is $670 a month, plus insurance, plus gas. He needs our support right now, and you're the only one in a position to provide the specific help he needs. This is what families do for each other when someone gets an opportunity. $670 a month for a car. My entire mortgage payment was $1,240 monthly, and that covered a whole house with property taxes and insurance included. That afternoon, I drove over to my parents' place because this situation was spinning completely out of control, and I needed to address it face-to-face before it got worse. Connor's Challenger dominated their driveway, sparkling like it had been professionally detailed that morning. I could see him through the living room window, sprawled on the couch in what looked like another new outfit, expensive-looking shirt and pants that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. I knocked on the door, and Mom answered, wearing this bright, expectant smile, like she was greeting a guest she'd been eagerly waiting for. Jake. Perfect timing. Come in. We were just working out the logistics. Logistics. Like Connor moving into my house was already a settled matter requiring only scheduling details. I followed her into the living room where Dad sat in his usual recliner reading the newspaper, and Connor lounged on the couch scrolling through his phone. The coffee table was covered with paperwork. What looked like employment documents, insurance forms, and a notebook filled with Mom's handwriting. So, Mom began, settling into her chair with obvious excitement. We've been thinking Connor should take the bedroom closest to the main bathroom. He'll need convenient access for getting ready in the mornings, and that room has the best natural light for laying out his work clothes. I didn't agree to any of this, I interrupted. Connor looked up from his phone with mild annoyance, like I was being unreasonably difficult about something trivial. Dude, what's the problem? I'm not asking for your kidney here, just a place to sleep Monday through Thursday nights. The problem is that it's my house. Mom's smile flickered for just a moment before returning full force. Of course it's your house, honey. But you're not even using those rooms for anything important. Not using them for anything important. One was going to be my home office. Another was planned as a guest room for when friends visited. The third I'd been considering as a workshop space for smaller projects. But apparently none of my plans counted as important compared to Connor's commute convenience. I worked 5 years to buy that house, I said, trying to keep my voice level and reasonable. 5 years of 60-hour weeks, eating nothing but cheap food, driving a car with 200,000 miles on it. I didn't do all that so Connor could have a free place to stay. Nobody said anything about free, Dad interjected without looking up from his newspaper. Connor will contribute his fair share. With what money? He hasn't even started the job yet. He'll pay you back once the commission checks start coming in, Mom said quickly. Morrison Luxury has an excellent compensation structure for successful salespeople. Successful salespeople. Connor had been fired from his last 4 jobs for attendance issues and poor performance, but somehow this time would be different. Look, Connor said, finally putting his phone down and looking directly at me. I know you worked hard for the house and all that, but let's be realistic here. You're not exactly Mr. Social. You're not throwing parties every weekend or having friends over all the time. Those bedrooms are basically just sitting there empty while I'm struggling with this impossible commute situation. Just sitting there empty. Like I'd purchased a house for the specific purpose of providing free housing to family members who made poor financial decisions. Connor, get your own apartment. His face flushed red with anger or embarrassment. With what money, Jake? First month, last month. Security deposit. That's at least $3,000 up front even for a basic place. Plus, I've got the car payment and insurance and all the clothes I need for this job. Then maybe you shouldn't have bought a car with a $670 payment. The room went completely silent. Dad finally looked up from his newspaper. Mom's mouth fell open slightly. Connor stared at me like I'd just insulted his mother. That car is an investment in my future, Connor said slowly, his voice tight with controlled anger. You can't sell luxury vehicles driving some beat-up economy car. Image matters in high-end sales. Your image matters more than having a place to live? I'll have a place to live. At your house. Which has empty bedrooms that you're not using for anything. The circular logic was making my head hurt. Connor needed expensive car to get job. Expensive car prevented him from affording apartment. Therefore, I should provide free apartment so Connor could afford expensive car to keep job. I'm not doing this, I said, standing up. Mom jumped to her feet as well, her voice becoming sharp and desperate. Jake, sit down. If you keep being stubborn about this, Connor's going to have to find some tiny, expensive apartment way out in the suburbs, which means he'll be exhausted from the long commute, which means he won't perform well at this job, which means this incredible opportunity will be wasted. That's his problem, not mine. Connor stood up too, his face now completely red. You know what, Jake? I always thought when you finally got something good in your life, you'd be happy to share it with family. I guess I was wrong about the kind of person you really are. The manipulation was so obvious it almost made me laugh. Poor Connor, whose own brother wouldn't sacrifice his privacy and space to solve problems created by Connor's terrible financial decisions. You're right, I said, heading toward the door. You were wrong about me. I left without saying another word, but I could hear Mom's voice rising behind me as I walked to my car. Something about family loyalty and disappointing her. That evening brought a series of phone calls from extended family members who'd clearly gotten Mom's version of events. Uncle Rick, Aunt Linda, both grandmothers, even my cousin Derek, who'd been at Connor's car celebration. Your mom's really upset, Derek told me. She says Connor might have to sleep in his car some nights because he can't afford gas for the daily commute. Sleep in his car. The $40,000 car with heated leather seats. There are extended stay motels, I replied. With what money? His first commission check won't come for at least a month, maybe 2. The same question everyone kept asking. With what money? As if Connor's complete lack of financial planning was somehow my responsibility to solve. Tuesday evening, I was working late at the shop when my phone buzzed with a text from Connor. Thanks for nothing, brother. Sleeping in the parking lot tonight because I can't afford gas to drive home. Hope your empty bedrooms are worth it. I didn't reply. I finished the brake job I was working on, locked up the shop, and drove home to my house with its 3 bedrooms that were apparently causing so much family drama by existing without Connor in them. Wednesday brought more text messages, these ones with photos attached. Connor had sent pictures of himself in the Challenger at various parking lots around town, outside a 24-hour gym, behind a McDonald's, in the corner of a shopping center, all with captions about how this was my fault for refusing to help family. The emotional manipulation was so transparent, it was almost insulting. Poor Connor, forced to sleep in his luxury sports car because his mean brother wouldn't provide free housing. By Thursday, the family pressure campaign had reached ridiculous levels. I came home from work to find Dad's pickup truck in my driveway. He was sitting on my front porch steps, still wearing his construction clothes and work boots, looking tired and older than his 53 years. "We need to talk," he said when I got out of my car. I unlocked my front door and we went into the living room. Dad looked around at my furniture, my television, my books and personal belongings, like he was seeing them for the first time. "Your mother's beside herself," he said, without any preamble. "Connor's been sleeping in that car for 3 nights. In October. This is killing her. Where's he showering? 24-hour gym membership. Eating fast food for every meal. Jake, this isn't sustainable." I sat down across from him, noting how he was framing this as Connor's problem, rather than Connor's series of poor choices. "Dad, he could get a studio apartment for $800 a month. With what money for the deposit? He spent his savings on work clothes and the car down payment." There it was again. The same question that somehow made Connor's inability to plan ahead my problem to solve. "Connor's your brother," Dad continued. "Family helps family." "I've been helping this family for years," I replied. "I covered Connor's share of your birthday dinner when he was broke. I loaned him my car for job interviews when his got repossessed. I fixed Mom's washing machine for free when you couldn't afford a repair service. At what point do I get to have something that's just mine?" Dad looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair like he wanted to be anywhere else. "This is different. This is temporary, and it's Connor's big chance. It's his 5th big chance in 3 years. Jake," Dad's voice carried a warning tone. "Your mother's already called your uncle about maybe co-signing an apartment lease for Connor. But that would mean taking on debt we can't afford. You can solve this problem right now tonight by just letting him stay in one of your spare rooms. Let him stay. Like Connor was some kind of guest who would politely visit for a weekend instead of a grown man who'd never lived independently and had no concept of boundaries or responsibility." After Dad left, I sat in my kitchen making a mental list of everything that would change if Connor moved in, even temporarily. My morning routine disrupted by someone else's shower schedule. My evenings filled with noise from television or phone calls. My kitchen invaded by someone else's dirty dishes and food preferences. My peaceful sanctuary transformed into a shared space where I'd have to negotiate every decision. Connor had never lived anywhere but our parents' house. He'd never paid utilities or maintained property or dealt with any of the responsibilities that come with having your own place. The idea that he'd be a respectful, temporary house guest was laughable. Friday morning brought the text message I'd been expecting. "Day 4 of sleeping in my car. But hey, at least you get to feel superior about your precious house." That evening, Connor showed up at my workplace just as I was closing up the shop. He pulled into the parking lot in his Challenger, music thumping through the windows, and got out wearing yet another expensive outfit. Designer jeans and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. "We need to settle this," he announced, walking over to where I was locking the front door. "There's nothing to settle. Find your own place." "Jake, I've been sleeping in my car for 4 days." 4 days. Do you have any idea what that's like? I looked at his car with its premium sound system and leather interior and climate control, then back at him in his expensive clothes holding the latest iPhone. "Looks pretty comfortable to me." His face went red. "This isn't a joke. I'm trying to make something of my life here, and you're sabotaging me over some petty grudge." "What grudge?" "You know what grudge. You've always resented me for being more successful, more popular. Now you finally have something I need, and you're using it to get back at me." The complete lack of self-awareness was stunning. Connor genuinely believed he was more successful than me. He thought sleeping in a car he couldn't afford while begging family for free housing was success. "Connor, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just not going to solve your problems for you." "Solve my problems?" His voice was getting louder, drawing attention from people walking to their cars. "I'm asking my brother for help during a temporary difficult situation. That's what family does." "No, Connor. What family does is show up for each other's celebrations. What family does is support each other's achievements. What family does is treat each other with respect and consideration." He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him processing what I'd just said. "You're still mad about the housewarming party?" "I'm disappointed that my entire family chose to celebrate your car instead of my house." "Yes. The timing just worked out that way." "The timing worked out exactly the way you wanted it to work out." Connor looked genuinely confused, like he couldn't understand why I might have feelings about being completely ignored on what should have been one of the biggest days of my life. "Jake, That's ancient history. This is about my future. Ancient history. 6 days ago. Figure out your own future, I said, getting into my Honda and driving away. Saturday morning, I woke up to someone pounding on my front door. Not knocking politely, actually pounding with their fist hard enough to rattle the frame. I looked out the window and saw Dad's pickup in my driveway, along with Mom's car, and Connor's Challenger. All three of them were standing on my porch. Connor looked terrible, wrinkled clothes, stubble, hair sticking up in different directions. He was holding a duffel bag and what appeared to be a laundry basket full of belongings. I opened the door to find Mom pushing past me into my house before I could say anything. "This ridiculous situation ends today," she announced, her voice sharp with frustration. "Connor slept in his car again last night because you're too selfish to let him use one of your empty bedrooms." She turned to face me, hands on her hips like she was scolding a misbehaving child. "He starts work Monday morning. He needs to be rested and presentable and focused on making a good impression, not exhausted from sleeping in a parking lot because his own brother won't help him." Connor set his duffel bag down by my couch without being invited, like he was moving in whether I agreed or not. "Where's he supposed to put his stuff?" I asked, pointing at the bag. "The back bedroom," Mom replied immediately. "It has the best closet space for his work clothes." Dad stepped forward, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Son, this has gone far enough. Connor's your family, and this is my house. That you bought with help from nobody," Mom said sarcastically. "Oh, wait, except for that tool set your father gave you when you started at the shop, and all those car repairs he taught you how to do, and that time we co-signed your motorcycle loan when you were 19. I stared at her, trying to process this complete rewriting of history. The tool set was a Christmas gift 6 years ago. The car repairs were basic maintenance that any father might teach his son. The motorcycle loan had been paid off 3 years early and was for a used bike that cost $3,800. But she was twisting these normal family interactions into some kind of massive debt that I now owed Connor. "You've never had to struggle for anything," she continued, her voice getting louder and more emotional. "Everything's always come easy for you. School, work, saving money. You don't know what it's like to face real challenges. Everything's always come easy. 5 years of working weekends, skipping social events, eating cheap food, and denying myself any luxury or entertainment. But apparently, that didn't count as struggle because I'd been successful at it. Connor's going to stay here during work weeks," she announced, like she was delivering a court verdict. "He'll keep his things in the back bedroom, use the main bathroom, and contribute to household expenses once his paychecks start coming in." "No," I said quietly. All three of them stopped talking and stared at me. "No," I repeated, louder this time. "Connor is not staying here. Not tonight. Not Monday. Not ever." Mom's face went white, then red. "Jake, you cannot be serious." "I'm completely serious." Connor stepped forward, his expression shifting from hopeful to desperate. "Jake, please. I'm literally begging you here. This job is everything to me. I just need a few weeks to get established, start earning commissions, then I can find my own place." A few weeks would become a few months, which would become Connor just living there permanently while making excuses about why he couldn't afford to move out. "Find somewhere else," I said. Mom exploded. "How can you be so selfish? How can you stand there and watch your brother suffer when you have the power to help him?" "I'm not making Connor suffer. Connor's poor decisions are making Connor suffer." "Poor decisions?" Her voice was getting shrill. "Buying a car appropriate for his job is a poor decision? Taking a position with unlimited earning potential is a poor decision? Buying a car he can't afford is a poor decision. Taking a job without planning for basic living expenses is a poor decision." Dad finally spoke up, his voice tired but firm. "Jake, just let him stay until he gets on his feet." "No. You're going to destroy his opportunity over pride? I'm going to protect my home and my peace of mind." Mom was staring at me like she'd never seen me before, like I'd transformed into some kind of monster right in front of her. "Fine," she said, her voice ice cold. "If that's the kind of person you really are, then we know where we stand." She grabbed Connor's duffel bag and shoved it at him. "Come on, Connor. We'll figure something else out." They left without another word, Mom and Dad walking quickly to their vehicles, while Connor trailed behind, looking back at my house with this expression of hurt betrayal. I watched them drive away, then went back inside and locked the door behind me. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or regret. From relief. For the first time in weeks, my house felt like it belonged to me again. The next few days brought a campaign of guilt and manipulation that would have impressed a professional politician. Text messages, voicemails, social media posts, relatives calling to share their opinions about my selfishness and lack of family loyalty. But I'd made my decision, and I wasn't backing down. 2 weeks later, the whole house of cards came crashing down in the most beautiful, karma-driven way possible. I was at work Tuesday morning when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Something big was happening on social media, based on the number of alerts coming through. The first message was from Derek. Did you see Connor's post? I hadn't, but I opened Facebook and found it immediately. Connor's profile picture was now a selfie of him sitting on what looked like a motel bed, with a long, rambling caption underneath. Sometimes life teaches you hard lessons about who your real family is. Lost my dream job yesterday because I couldn't maintain the professional image required for luxury automotive sales. Lost my car this morning to the repo company. But I guess I learned something valuable about how some people care more about their property than their own flesh and blood. Starting over from zero, but at least I know who I can count on. The comments were pouring in. What happened, Connor? So sorry. Your brother really wouldn't help you? That's terrible. Family should stick together. Stay strong, you'll get through this. My phone was ringing before I could finish reading all the responses. Mom, of course. Jake, Connor lost everything. His job, his car, everything. And it's your fault. What exactly happened? He got fired yesterday. Couldn't compete with the other salespeople because he was exhausted and stressed from his living situation. They repossessed the Challenger this morning when he couldn't make the payment. I felt this weird mixture of sadness for Connor and vindication for my own decision. The exact scenario I'd predicted had played out. Connor had taken on financial obligations he couldn't sustain, and when the inevitable collapse happened, everyone expected me to cushion his fall. Where is he staying now? Budget motel on Route 9, paid for 1 week with his final paycheck. After that, she started crying. Mom, I'm sorry Connor's struggling, but this isn't my fault. It is your fault, she screamed through the tears. He could have kept that job if you just helped him. He could have made it work. After she hung up, I sat in my office thinking about cause and effect, about personal responsibility, about the difference between helping someone and enabling their poor choices. That evening, Dad called. His voice was different, defeated, exhausted. Jake, Connor's in real trouble. He's talking about leaving town. Says there's nothing left for him here. Maybe a fresh start would be good for him. Your mother hasn't stopped crying in 2 days. She blames herself for pushing him to take that job, blames you for not helping him keep it. Dad, Connor made his own choices. I know that, but he's still your brother. The next day, I drove to the motel where Connor was staying, found his room and knocked on the door. He opened it looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. The confident, cocky guy with the leather jacket and new car was gone, replaced by someone who looked broken down and defeated. Come to see the wreckage, he asked, but without much fight in his voice. Come to talk. We sat on the uncomfortable motel chairs while Connor told me what had really happened. How he'd lasted exactly 12 days at Morrison before they let him go for poor performance and attendance issues. How he'd been struggling to stay awake during sales presentations because he wasn't sleeping well in his car. How the car payment and insurance had consumed his entire first commission check, leaving him with nothing for food or basic expenses. I screwed up, he admitted finally. The car, the job expectations, all of it. You were right. Connor, I wasn't trying to be right. I was trying to protect myself. I know, and I don't blame you anymore. I spent so many years having everyone else fix my mistakes that I never learned how to actually solve my own problems. He looked up at me with genuine remorse. I'm sorry, Jake, for assuming I could just take over part of your house, for all the pressure and guilt trips, for missing your housewarming party because I was too excited about my own stuff to think about anyone else. It was the first real apology I'd gotten from anyone in my family about any of this. The next day, Mom called with a very different tone than before. Jake, Connor told us he's planning to leave town, going to stay with his friend Tommy in Phoenix. Try to start over there. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I know you're still angry with us, with me, and you have every right to be. There was a long pause before she continued. I enabled him, didn't I? For years. Every time he made a mistake, I found a way to fix it or make excuses for it. I thought I was being a good mother, but I was really just making him weaker. Mom, you were the responsible one, always. And instead of appreciating that, I took it for granted. I expected you to keep being responsible while I protected Connor from the consequences of his irresponsibility. She was quiet for a moment. The housewarming party. We should have been there. It was a huge accomplishment, and we missed it because I was so focused on Connor's car. His stupid, expensive car that he lost anyway. I was really hurt by that. I know you were, and I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I looked around my living room in my house that I'd worked for and fought for and kept. Yeah, Mom, I can forgive you. Connor left for Phoenix the following week. Before he went, he stopped by my house one last time. I wanted to see it properly, he said, looking around the living room. The house I was so ready to just move into without permission. I gave him the full tour. The workshop I'd set up in the garage, the home office where I managed my finances and planned projects, the guest room I'd prepared for friends who might visit. Every space had been thoughtfully arranged and purposefully designed. I get it now, he said, as we stood on the back deck overlooking my small but well-maintained yard. This isn't just a house. It's proof of who you are. 6 months later, Connor called from Phoenix with an update. He'd gotten a job at a Toyota dealership. Not glamorous, but steady base salary, plus reasonable commission structure. He was renting a studio apartment and driving a used Corolla he'd bought with cash, learning to live within his means. It's harder than I thought it would be, he admitted, being completely responsible for myself. But it's also kind of liberating. Mom and Dad started coming around again, but carefully and respectfully. Sunday dinners where they actually asked about my work and my plans instead of just updating me on Connor's latest schemes. Dad even helped me install new kitchen cabinets. And for the first time in years, we worked together as equals, rather than him just directing me what to do.